2003 Mercedes-Benz E220 CDI. When this car came out, it was the pinnacle of luxury. It was like an S-Class that you could drive yourself rather than be chauffeured in. It was the car that made the daily commute an enjoyable experience. This car has so many features that you can probably own it for a year and discover something new every day. And when you're inside, you almost forget that you're driving because of how nice it is. And today, I'm going to show you all the details and characteristics of this luxurious beast from the 2000s. Before we get started with the video, I just want to take a moment to thank this channel's sponsor, and that's you. Thanks for getting the channel to 1,600 subscribers. It really means a lot to me. Also want to say thanks to my friend Mario for messaging me on Instagram and offering me to review his car. Thanks, Mario. And if you have a cool car that I could review, please get in touch with me, especially if you're near Serbia. Okay, so let's first talk about the styling of the E220. When this car first came out, there was pretty much nothing more beautiful out on the market. Mercedes-Benz did a great job at making this car look stylish and timeless, and it looks great even 20 years later. The smooth design language truly represents how opulent and luxurious this car really is. This was the W211 generation of the Mercedes E-Class. It was a lot better in styling than the W210 generation that came before it. Mercedes-Benz at the time had this boxy, square-looking design that was really starting to get dated and look old. And this was one of the first production cars that started to change that trend into more flowy lines that we associate with Mercedes-Benz today. Now, here on the side of the car, you can see it says Avantgarde. And this represents the trim level of the car. There were 3 trim levels: Classic, Elegance, and then top of the line, Avantgarde. The differences between the Classic and the Elegance trim levels weren't that big, but the Avantgarde was just something else. Now, what you get with the Avantgarde package starts right here with the tail lights. You actually get different tail lights for the Avantgarde trim level, and they have these little LEDs for the brake lights. This is actually the first time I've seen a car get different tail lights based on the trim level. And then most noticeably, you have chrome basically everywhere. For example, right here on the bumper, you get chrome on the door handles and the side panels as well, and also right here on the front bumper. It really makes the car pop. Now, the Avantgarde trim level also gets a different bumper right here next to the fog lights. The suspension is just a tiny bit harder than in the standard versions, and it also gets different wood trim in the interior. Now, some of the other things you get with the Avantgarde package are bi-xenon headlights. The grille has these black slats in the Avantgarde version. The side skirts are actually different, and the windows are actually tinted blue from the factory. There are truly so many quirks that make this car really, really special. One of the things I really like about Mercedes-Benz cars from this era is this hood ornament which sticks out from the hood. It's really cool because you can see it from the inside, and it's like you've got your crosshairs on the road in front of you. You know where you're going, and it just gives you a cool feeling that you're in this really special car. And by the way, from the factory, this hood ornament actually moves and rotates around, and that's because of pedestrian safety. If you accidentally hit someone, then the hood ornament moves out of the way and doesn't hurt them. So it's really nice that Mercedes-Benz thought about all the pedestrians you'd be hitting in your E220 CDI. Okay, now underneath the hood of the E220 CDI, it's a 2.2 liter inline-4 turbo diesel engine that makes 148 horsepower and 251 pound-feet of torque, which is surprisingly enough for daily driving. It does the 0 to 60 in 10.6 seconds, and the facelift version of the E220 CDI actually got a 20 horsepower increase. It makes 168 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, which I imagine is more than enough for daily driving. Now, the E220 CDI was actually offered with a 6-speed manual or a 5-speed automatic transmission called the 5G-tronic. And interestingly enough, this 5G-tronic actually has 5 forward gears and 2 reverse gears. Now, since this was a luxury car for business people, you'd always want to take the automatic so that you can free up your hand for important business calls. And the E220 CDI was only offered as a rear-wheel drive car, but you could get all-wheel drive on different models like the E280 CDI. Now, interestingly enough, this generation of the E-Class actually had 2 batteries, one in the trunk and then the other one right underneath here. And it was actually very necessary in this car because the brakes were controlled by an electronic motor, and then if your battery failed for some reason, you wouldn't be able to stop. Okay, so before we get into the E220 CDI, let's just talk about the key situation. You can see that it's not a real key, it's just a key fob, but you can actually pull out the real key from the key fob in case the battery runs out on you. And when you press the unlock button, you can set it so only the driver's door unlocks and that other doors remain locked. Then when you press it again, the other doors become unlocked. Now, this is very useful if you just bought the car and all of your friends want to go inside to see it, but you're late for work. Now, just like a lot of cars, you can actually roll down the windows of this car by using the key from the outside. The thing is, it doesn't work if you just point it anywhere. In the key, there's a little infrared emitter, and here there's an infrared sensor. So what you have to be doing is actually point the key into this little sensor, and then it should roll down the windows. There you go. I'm kind of surprised it doesn't roll down just your window, you know, for safety. Now, getting inside of the E220, it's just a really luxurious experience. And let's hear that door noise. Really, really sturdy. I like that. Now, when we close the door, it's actually when the luxury starts. Everything in here is really, really nice. The seats are these perforated leather seats. There's wood trim all over the car. The steering wheel is this really nice, thick leather steering wheel. There's even leather on the door panel right here. Everything in this car is just so nice, and it just feels very luxurious to be inside. Okay, now here's one of the biggest quirks of this car, which is the gauge cluster. In the lower trims of the car, the gauge cluster is black, but here in the Avantgarde version, it's this really nice white color. First, the gauge cluster has this screen in the middle which shows you all kinds of information. And this is such forward thinking for Mercedes-Benz, because these days every car has a screen like this. This was really ahead of its time. Now here's another quirk. When I was a kid, my dad had an E320, and the first time I sat in the driver's seat and saw this, I was absolutely amazed. Basically, this needle right here, it doesn't come out of the center of the gauge cluster like in basically every other car. It just appears that it's floating, which is really interesting. Another quirk of this gauge cluster is that you can see that the left side of the gauge cluster is just a single analog clock. Basically, in every car at the time, you would have a speedo and then a tachometer right here. And Mercedes-Benz knew that their customers value their time and needed the clock right there, so they know exactly how late they are to their business meeting. Another cool quirk of the gauge cluster is that when you turn the key, the fuel gauge actually fills up gradually, which is a really cool animation that Mercedes-Benz didn't really have to do, but it's nice that they did it. Now let's move into the storage spaces of this car, which there are many. Now, first of all is this really cool center console, which opens two ways. You can open it like this, and then it kind of splits open, but this is actually a false bottom. If you press this other lever, you can lift it up, and there's a bigger storage space underneath. Then there's this little tray next to the glove box, which pops open really nicely. It's actually supposed to be a place for your business cards. If it's too difficult to reach for them like this and grab one, there's a hole underneath where you can pop up the whole tray and just grab one like this, which doesn't really seem to be that easier, but that's the idea. Next up, it's actually the glove box, which is openable by the press of a button. And you can actually lock it with the key from the key fob in case you're leaving the car for a valet or something. This can only be opened with that key. You can give them the key to the car, but not the key to the glove box. And in here, there's obviously space for more business cards and a pen. Now, just like in every other luxury car from this era, there's a 6 CD disc changer, and it's located right here. You press this button, and then it just pops up from underneath here. Something to note is that all the compartments in here are very smooth to open and close. Everything's soft to open. There's no clanking, there's no weird noises. It's just like how smooth and elegant the car is. Even the ashtrays in this car are smooth to open. And of course, each passenger gets their own ashtray, as well as the center passenger. They also get their own ashtray, so they don't have to share with the passengers on the left and right. Now, another cool hidden storage compartment is this right here underneath the seat, where the first aid kit is. This is very handy if you don't want your passenger reaching for your snacks, so you can just hold them right here. Now, here's another cool feature of this car. In order to increase visibility, Mercedes-Benz installed these pop-up headrests that you have to put up when you want to use them, just like this. And then they're in place, but they're kind of blocking your view in the rear view mirror. And that's what you got this button right here for, so that when you drop off your passengers, you can just press this button and the seat rests fold down. Now, this is of course hilarious because you can just prank your rear seat occupants by dropping their headrests if they're being too annoying. Okay, now here's a genius level quirk of this car that I don't think I've ever seen in any other car. So basically, you've got your windows down right here, and there's this button in the AC controls which is called tunnel mode right here. And what it does is that when you're supposed to be using it when you enter a tunnel, and what it does is rolls up all the windows up at the same time. This is really genius because instead of pulling 4 switches right here when you're parking your car, you can just press this and it pulls all of them up. Another cool part of this feature is that if you hold it again, it lowers the windows back down, but only to the point where they actually were when you roll them up. Another cool feature of the AC in this car is this rest button right here, which is supposed to be used if you're doing long highway drives and then you just want to pull over. It uses residual heat from the engine to warm the cabin, so you can press it, the car can be off, you don't have to have it on, and you can just have your 30-minute rest. Another great feature is these map lights right here, which if you turn on, they illuminate everything in your cockpit, except they don't really blind you. When you turn on the main light, this kind of gets in your eyes when you're trying to drive, but these dome lights, they don't really get into your eyes at all. You can't even see them. And another lighting quirk in this car is that there is a rear dome light which you can turn on from here, but the rear seat occupants, they can't actually turn this dome light on. They can only adjust the ambient lighting and turn their own map lights. I assume this is because Mercedes-Benz doesn't want the rear seat occupants to be bothering the driver with such a bright light. Another quirk of this car is that it actually had parking sensors, but not in the screen like basically every other car today. They were actually actually kind of analog parking sensors. They were right here, and they would display basically how close you were to the thing in front of you. For the rear sensors, nowadays you have a backup camera. What Mercedes-Benz did in this car is that they were actually right behind the rear bench right there, and you would have to look in the rear view mirror to see how far away you were from the thing behind you. That just kind of makes sense because you're obviously going to be looking in your rear view mirror when you're backing up. You're not going to be looking at your screen. Here's an interesting thing. Even though this car is an automatic, you can see that we have 1, 2, and 3 pedals. And actually in a manual configuration, this car has 4 pedals. Now that's because this left pedal right here is actually the handbrake, which you operate by foot, and you release it by pulling on this lever right here. And another fun fact of this car is that it actually has a separate button for the headlight washers. You press this button and then the headlight washers activate outside. Now, another interesting thing is this WS button right here, and it stands for winter and standard. What this does is that when you're taking off, instead of using first gear, use second gear. It makes taking off a bit smoother, and in case there's snow on the roads, you don't spin your tires. And in the same fashion, if you're putting it into winter mode and then going into reverse, it actually does the second reverse gear so that you can park more safely and not spin out. Now, the one thing I don't like in this interior are these leather panels on the doors. I don't know what Mercedes-Benz was thinking when they installed these. It just looks horrible. Maybe some quilting would have been better. One more interior quirk of this car is that when you're starting it, you don't actually have to hold the key in the start position. You can just press it once and then the car starts up automatically. So like this. There you go. Okay, now let's hear how this car sounds. Okay, so just starting it up. And let's just give it a bit of rev. That's pretty nice. Now, one thing interesting with this car is that you can actually open the trunk right here from inside of the cabin, and you can open it with the key. It's automatic. It automatically opens. You have to close it manually. The size is really big. This is a huge trunk, and the reason for that is the rear seats are actually not foldable in this model, so the trunk has to be big so that you can actually fit something in here. Okay, now before we take the car for a ride, there's something I absolutely have to show you, and it's because this car has brake-by-wire. What that means is when you're pressing the brake pedal, you're not actually pressing a cylinder that presses your brakes. You're actually pressing a switch that activates an electric motor that then presses the cylinder that activates your brakes. And what this enables this car to do is something truly amazing. You would put it into drive, right? And then if you're below 20 kilometers an hour, what you can do is you can just activate this. Now this is the cruise control. You can see here is it says SBCS. What that stands for is Sensitronic Brake Control Stop. What that means is that this car has one pedal driving. Let me explain. Now we're pressing the gas, right? And we're going 10 kilometers an hour. And then as soon as I let off the gas right here, I'm not pressing the brake, there's no brake, the car is coming to a stop. And we just came to a complete stop, zero braking. So you can just drive the car with one pedal. I assume this is immensely useful in bumper-to-bumper traffic. And I know electric cars have this, but never seen this in a diesel-powered car. Zero brake and the car just stops. I just find that really amazing. And this SBCS is exactly why the car needs that auxiliary battery that we talked about. If your main battery accidentally goes out, you would have no way of actually stopping the car. The brakes don't really, it's just a switch. There's no hydraulic power behind that pedal. Another cool feature of this car is if you're waiting at a traffic signal, you know you're not going to be moving soon. What you can do is you can just press the brake pedal really hard and then it activates SBCH, Sensitronic Brake Control Hold. And what this does, it just holds the car in the brake position. The car is in drive, but it's not going. It just doesn't creep. And then when you press the gas pedal, then the brake deactivates, then you start going. You heard it right there. The car actually locks itself when you go above a certain speed. Okay, and now let's drive the E220 CDI. So starting off, I really like the fact that this car is an automatic. I think that the automatic just suits the car. When you think about it, it's not really a luxury car if you have to sit there and you're shifting gears and then you're feathering the clutch. It's not really what this car is all about. Okay, so first impressions driving the car. I mean, when you're talking about daily driving a car, this was a car that was made to be daily driven. I've already talked about the interior being so luxurious, but it's not just the interior. The whole experience of driving it, it's like you're sitting in your living room. You don't even know that you're driving. Driving is nice, but it's definitely not the point. I talked about this before, but I really like the fact that you can see the hood ornament from the cockpit. You're sitting here, you have the sights on the road, you know where you're going. It just gives you that luxury feeling. You're driving a Mercedes-Benz, you're not driving any other car. Now, when it comes to power delivery, I really like that this car is very smooth. The shifts, you don't really notice them. It's almost like it has a CVT. There's no jerking, there's no unwanted motions, it's just smooth sailing. And right here, we're nearing a stop, so what I'll do is I'll just do the hold hold function, and I just really love that function. Every car should have that. BMWs have it, but you have to press a button, then it turns off when you shut off the car. Start it back up, you have to release the handbrake. It forgot the hold function was on. Here, you press the brake pedal, the car holds. There's no thinking about it. It's just everything in this car becomes second nature as soon as you begin to drive it. Something that's really cool in this car that people rave about is this so-called one-touch cruise control, where you just press this lever one time and then the cruise control engages. And I think it's kind of genius. I think cruise control shouldn't be this thing where you have to like turn it on and then fumble around with it and then, oh, do you want it to be adaptive? Do you want it to be? No, you just press it once, works, holds the speed. You don't think about it. Amazing. I mean, it's just effortless. We're just going. You think about it, it's kind of an E-Class. It's not a small car. It's a 2.2 liter inline 4. You'd think it would be underpowered, but actually it's powered. It's just normal powered. Let's try to give it the beans, see what it does. I mean, that's not bad. That's not bad. Whew. That's in no way bad. You don't expect it from this car, honestly. You would expect it to just be super slow, but it doesn't really, it just goes. You know, it's not an M4, but it goes. So let's see what we can do right here on the bridge. There's a bit of traffic. You can actually put it into manual mode. Yeah, there we go. It doesn't sound too bad. It really doesn't. Here, I'm gonna use the tunnel button and just lift up all the windows. I don't need to check which window is up, which window is down. I can just press the tunnel button, all windows go up. No thinking about it. Using the manual mode on this car is not too bad. It's kind of fun. All right. I mean, it's not a sports car, but it sounds pretty damn good. The top speed of this car, by the way, 133 miles an hour, which is enough to go cruising on the Autobahn if you need to for your daily commute. Oh, so nice. The suspension is so soft in this car, and it really hugs the corners. You kind of forget when you're in this car, you forget what it is. It's a 20-year-old car with 331,000 kilometers on the clock, and it feels amazing. As much as a daily driver car can feel amazing, it feels amazing. I really like the fact that it's got enough power so that you can actually overtake someone and not just have to sit behind the big trucks and wait until there's a huge space that you can actually overtake someone. It's just so immediate. You don't really have to think too much when you're driving the car. All your problems disappear. You can hear when the turbo kicks in. I think that's what it is. I really can't stress enough how great this transmission is for a 5-speed. In a lot of cars that have these slower, older type transmissions, you can feel the car's like slugging, it's like, and then it shifts. Here, I swear, you don't even know when the car's shifting. I don't know which gear I'm in right now. Downshift goes. Oh. And then there's a corner and you just enjoy it. You don't think about it. Just great. Great suspension on this car. Just great. And there you go. That was the E220 CDI. Of course, I'm going to give this car a 10 out of 10 on the market score. I think it's a perfect daily driver filled with luxury features and some great engineering. Thank you so much for watching my review, and I'll see you next time. Bye.